A strange paradox of attention deficit is having to medicate to remember things and never being fully invested in enough attention to remember where you put your medication. Okay, well, but we said we'd do it. We keep our word. No, we're doing it. This is the canonization event for the Church of Korihor, a church for godless people. And I have been working very hard over the course of a year to find, vet out, and to prepare the document that will be here released as the Korihor Canon. Today is November 30th, 2025. We will be releasing this document over the course of the day today on the website at korihor.org. And we'll also be launching on the music player for Godless hymns at korihor.org/hymns. A new hymn that I'm going to debut for you right now. It is called The Age of Reason. It is a very fun song. It's a very good and inspirational, moving piece that I am happy to have written. I will then read the statement for the canonization of the Korihor Canon and the pieces that we are adding today officially. And we'll be going over those then. Immediately following that, we will have a brief, shall we say, communal conversation in which we will have a chance for everybody to just kind of catch up in the comments and or to, engage with one another. And we'll just kind of, shoot the shit. So in any event, here we are. We are the Church of Korihor, and this is the Age of Reason.
After the night of faith dawns our revolution. Rebels in an age of doubt took hold of our evolution. Harness the elements, tame the gods of thunder, cast off the slave's chains, look up with wonder.
Into the age
free. We choose to be free.
I have been. I have been. What we have the robot sing. It is pure original, old-fashioned salt and fatty meat computer thinking that goes into the lyrics. I'm very proud to be the author of this song. But most of the canon, the scripture of the Church of Korihor, is not written by me. We kind of do something a little bit different than what may have been done with church before. But hey, we wouldn't be us if we didn't do our godless work in a way very different from how God-fearers do it. And so this is the canonization event, and I was gonna just read the statement. I first want to show you the document itself. So I've been working off of Google Doc for about a year. I have not, obviously, I'm still working on it. Over the course of the next year, I intend to hold at least one more canonization event in which we will canonize a few other works. But I'm still going through them and kind of preparing how they will look, what the versification will be, if any, and then also kind of vetting out, do we really need this? Is this really part of where we're going? How does this shape the future? But there are so many writings by people, many of whom were not atheists at all, that are nonetheless significant and important to the cause, I think, of all humanity, but particularly the cause of the godless. And so, being the church for godless people, for atheists, agnostics, and non religious people, I decided we needed an official canon of our own. And so, I want to show you the document itself and plan to do this. So, we just do things like that. Let's see here. They moved things around. That was very nice of them. Share screen. Had trouble with this in the past. Should I just show the document itself? Yeah, let's try it. We're gonna try showing just the document. Anyway, yeah. So this is the Korihor canon. I'm calling this edition 1.0, and then as we release new versions of it, we'll preview them. I'm just gonna check back here and make sure that everybody can see this. Okay, cool. So this is the Korihor canon as it will look in the print edition. You'll see that it says it's compiled by Joseph Rollins, First Herald. You're welcome. First canonized by the Church of Korihor, November 30th, 2025. May the light of reason prevail. The first document that we're going to talk about here is Korihor, Martyr of Reason. Obviously, you can't tell the story of godless people per the tradition of the Church of Korihor unless people know who Korihor is. And so we're going to talk about that. And then you'll see that it is broken down into verses. Each section will have basically a three-part citation. So you'll have the author. In case of the Korihor Martyr of Reason, the author is Joseph Smith, but we'll call it Korihor just because, well, Korihor and Joseph Smith are integrally connected, sadly enough. But for example, we have pain, and there'll be pain, then the title of the work, which is for example, in this case, the Age of Reason, and then part one or part/section. So for example, in documents that have multiple sections, like the Age of Reason, you have part one, section one, and then you have versification. Then you have, so anyways, so that's how we are separating out each of these documents. I went on the show for Latter Daily Digest just the other day to talk about how we are canonizing the Age of Reason, one of the documents that Gene and I are both passionate about. And we're going to talk about that, but we actually, the bulk of what we're canonizing today is not actually the Age of Reason, but or Korihor even, but actually the lectures of Robert G. Ingersoll. So we'll read the statement, and then we will move from there on to just kind of previewing some of these sections, some of these works, and then after that, we'll kind of get caught up on where things are going, what's happening today, and what's going to be happening in December. So, this is our official statement. Church for Godless, Church for the Godless, canonizes a chapter of the Book of Mormon and other controversial documents. On this date, November 30th, 2025, Korihors gathered from around the world to attend an event canonizing sacred writings for the godless. First of these, the Martyrdom of Korihor, which was chapter 16 of the Book of Mormon by Joseph Smith Jr. Certainly controversial for its time, the Book of Mormon claims to be the writings of ancient American Christians who foretold the coming of Christ and who witnessed Christ's post-resurrection appearance in the Americas. While the historical claims of the Book of Mormon have long been disproven, one part of the fictional story stands out more than any other, and that's the teachings and martyrdom of Korihor. Korihor was Joseph Smith's guilty conscience, a straw man argument of the Enlightenment ideas that drove his own doubts about God and Christianity. The ideas of the Book of Mormon are certainly revolutionary, but its most significant contribution to the modern world was to canonize the most basic principles of the Enlightenment in the heresies of Korihor. While Joseph Smith certainly meant to do the opposite, he exposed the logical fallacy and fallibility of Christianity, and we preserve it as canon for the world and for the godless. May the light of reason prevail. Thomas Paine's The Age of Reason. Be it known to the world that we Korihors regard Thomas Paine's The Age of Reason, currently in public domain, as sacred writings for the godless. The Age of Reason was a controversial document at the turn of the 19th century, just as it is today. While not an atheist himself, Paine embodied in its text a plainly worded criticism of the Bible and of Christian dogma. The Age of Reason is not just snark and cynicism. It contains the hopes of agnostics for a future shaped by science, logic, and public works. It envisions a world free from tyranny and from slavery of both body and mind. It is therefore sacred writings for the benefit of all, and particularly for atheists and agnostics. May the light of reason prevail. Robert G. Ingersoll's Why I Am Agnostic, Thanksgiving Sermon, a lay sermon, The Foundations of Faith, Superstition, and the Devil. Be it known to the world that we Korihors regard the following lectures of Robert G. Ingersoll, Why I Am Agnostic, How to Reform Mankind, Thanksgiving Sermon, a lay sermon, The Foundations of Faith, Superstition, and the Devil, currently in public domain, as sacred writings for the godless. These important lectures celebrate ingenuity, labor, science, art, and moral progress. And in doing so, they challenge the wrong assumption that gratitude is owed to the divine for human progress. Ingersoll, son of a preacher who was once defrocked by just making sure it's not an emergency. Sorry. Ingersoll, son of a preacher who was once defrocked by the Congregationalist Church for his liberal ideas, raised an entire regiment of the cavalry for the Union and put his very life on the line to fight for the cause of ending slavery. In the years following the American Civil War, while the country turned its eyes and hearts to God for redemption, the great agnostic went on the speaking circuit to give godless sermons in his own right. His impassioned plea for critical thinking, logic, and humanism make these writings sacred to us. May the light of reason prevail. And that's it. Officially canonized are these documents for the Church of Korihor. We will be publishing them, and let it not be said that godless people don't believe in things that are sacred. Some of the other things, I'll just give you a quick preview. Boom, boom, boom. Some of the other writings that I've been playing with, including here, that I'm a little too excited to preserve for a later date. I've been playing with some of the text from the writings of Thomas Jefferson, particularly the rough draft of the Declaration of Independence, the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedoms, and excerpts from his notes on his early career, in which he goes over the history and the importance and significance of the drafting of the Declaration of Independence, including some very important aspects of the secularization of government, and why it was important, in his view, as he observed, that English common law, while a good foundation to work off of, needed to be reformed because it was too committed to the idea of making the Anglican Church or the Episcopalian Church dominant in a society where preferring one religion over any other certainly would lead to the persecution, and did lead to the persecution of others. For example, he talks about also, I should mention, in notes on the state of Virginia. This is a similar project that he undertook. He talks, for example, about how there was a time in early British colonies, perhaps not realized. People say that there was religious persecution, but I think very few people know the details about it before the First Amendment, and the reason why the First Amendment had to be drafted and created. And one of the things that he talks about is how in the early Christian the early British colonies in the Americas, if you were a Quaker, you could be cast out of society, or you could, in some cases, you were not able to hold office if you were a Quaker or a Baptist. And so basically you had to show religious fealty to a particular church, and in that way it made people second-class citizens if they were the wrong religion or just not religious at all. And that this was inherently evil, to have to enforce the expansion of your religion, or the institutionalization of a particular religion, by forcing people to adhere to your religion if they don't want to if they didn't want to be persecuted or dismissed in their own society. So I think that's very important, particularly setting up the story for and the understanding of what we now think of as American secularism. The Christo-fascists will tell you that we are a country going to hell in a handbasket, because we don't regard the Bible as sacred anymore. We don't regard Christian values as part of American values, and as a result, insert slippery slope argument here. Anything that is, they'll claim everything from mass shootings or murder or war, the growth of Marxian economics, all are the direct result of having abandoned faith in God as part of the foundation of society, the moral foundation of society. The fact of the matter is, this entire nation and this entire modern movement was founded in response to exactly the kind of values that they're holding up as conservative. They're trying to conserve the values and ideas of an age that it should not exist in a modern world, an age where some religious ideas are institutionalized in order to prevent them from being questioned and give the force of law to their being questioned. Thomas Paine found himself behind bars at one point. Bertrand Russell, one of the other writings that we're going to be canonizing in the next event. Not sure when that's going to be just yet, but this is a lot. I've been doing quite a bit of work to get us this far. Is Bertrand Russell's I always think of Why I'm Not a Christian. That one we're not doing yet because it's not yet in the public domain. It won't be until 2028. So but Free Man's Worship is what it's called. It's a lecture delivered by Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell, if you didn't know, I mean, besides being a feminist, radical, pro-democracy voice at a time when that wasn't necessarily popular in the world, it's the early 20th century, he went to prison for blasphemy. And he was happy to do it in the end because he said it was the one time when all of life was so simplified for him. Somebody else has to feed you, they have to give you time to yourself. And he said, it wasn't comfortable to be in prison, especially for the reasons that he was in prison. But that it freed his mind and freed his ability to stop and think. And so a free man's worship is kind of a part of that. He's probably one of the most significant thinkers in the history of the world. And he happened to be, let's call it agnostic. In any event, he happened to be godless. So I'm pretty excited to get all those documents canonized as well. I just need to be able to go through them all, make sure that I have read them all the way through, know all the history behind them before we get to the point of adding those in. So in the coming months, expect to see at least one more canonization event in which we will go over these documents and why they are important to the godless, and then we'll be able to publish them where people can purchase a physical copy of the book, but of course also publishing it for free for the world on our website at korihor.org. So in any event, so now this is the part where we are going to just kind of talk for a while. So this is kind of an update on where we are, an update on the current plan. I still need to, and I'm planning in the coming days to renew our registration with the state of Utah as a church, and we are going to be committing at least to one more year, and we'll just keep recommitting and recommitting until we have accomplished all of our objectives, which are not, they're not quite there yet. One thing I should do, let's just save this canonization event post. And this is kind of off the cuff. Let's just go ahead and hit publish. There'll be some of these links are not going to work. Well, I'm going to be polishing it. Just be patient with the website is what I'm saying. Be patient with the website because we're working on it. But I want to go ahead and hit publish on it so that people will see how the new layout of the website is going and how the rebrand is going for 2026. It's not a huge rebrand. Our symbols are still the same. Most of what we're doing here is still exactly the same as it has been, but with a few differences. And I've been pretty excited to push this live so that people can see it. And so, yeah, forgive the things that don't work right, that are broken. We're still working on it. We're still working on it. We're trying here. We're trying. Okay, let me go ahead and stop sharing on that. I'm going to start sharing on the Church of Korihor's official website. Okay, so you guys should be able to see now. This is the website for the Church of Korihor. If you're in the landscape mode or the portrait mode, it might be a little difficult to see. I'm gonna be able to hit maximize there. Yeah, that did a whole lot of nothing. I guess it's some difference. Not really though. In any event, so this is the new website for the Church of Korihor. Again, you'll see that the new theme for this year for 2026 is Godless People on a Mission. Of course, you can always, the first button is always going to be to either log in or to join. But now you have also the button a little more boldly pointed out here is that there's a button to donate and or volunteer. Donation form works. Volunteer form still doesn't exist. We're trying to get that put together. But and then of course the contact us doesn't work. Don't click on it. But then you go, as you scroll down, you'll see that our buttons that previously had big, fancy, beautiful, colorful images behind them, the colorful images are gone. They're just buttons. I did that while I was traveling as a result of having traveled across the country and been to different places that have different levels of access to the internet, and discovered that the website, while I had sped it up a lot, was loading disturbingly slow in some connection speeds. And that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to make it more difficult. And so I said, what matters is that you can get to the buttons quickly and then get to the different services. So when you click on meditation, that should take you over to overview. Again, still working on the overview app and working out some of the bugs in that. When you click on canon, that will now take you to the Korihor canon. And there's nothing there yet because we are just now solemnizing the canon. We'll be publishing that over the course of the day. And then the hymns, you can go to list all of our Godless hymns. And then podcast will take you to Hellfire Agency, which will be rebranded in the new year. Then, of course, we have the creed, as it always has been. We transform painful lives into lives worth living by the light of reason. We are all Korihor. And then community, you have these different tabs. And so, yeah, and our mission to build a future beyond hate, dogma, and greed. You can help. That will go to the volunteer form. The story of Korihor has got kind of a reorganization. Looks very cool, I think. Very, very, very neat. And of course, a button to start the conversion process, to walk the conversion path. Our story is that we are the fastest growing spiritual movement in the world. Are people whose religion is defined as none. The Church of Korihor was founded by a small group of ex-Mormon atheists in the state of Utah in 2024 in response to a growing need for godless spiritual enlightenment and community. We are a peaceful community of godless people, flashing bright through self-directed purpose. And then the 12 values of Korihorism. So this is, these subtle changes I think are going to make a huge difference, because we are moving into an age where it is a little bit disheartening how the people that we are living among are we live in a time when compassion for human beings that ought to be tied to people's love of God ought to be taught and preserved as humanism has really fallen by the wayside. And where we have a lot of people who feel more disconnected than ever. And, people are dating less People are gathering less frequently, and more importantly, we are spending most of our time these days trying to get by, just trying to make ends meet. And at least that's the way I have seen it in the people I'm surrounded by and the people that I am most concerned with. This evening, I'm going to be going to Salt Lake. Well, I'm going this morning, going back to Salt Lake County, and going to see the family, do some family stuff up there, spending time with my kids, uh, and settling things after my divorce. And then I'm going to be uh, hopefully have the time this evening to go back up to St. Mark's Episcopal up in uh, Salt Lake City itself, because tonight is the first official, as it was last year when the Church of Korihor was founded, the first movie night, all night movie night with my friends over at Unsheltered Utah, and they are in desperate need of volunteers. So if anybody out there wants to volunteer, I'm trying to make it up there. I don't want to make a commitment without having gotten up there yet, because of course the roads with the first snow of the year, we're not really sure how. I don't know what I don't know about about getting from here in St. George up to Salt Lake. It shouldn't be too bad. We'll see. But I'm going to be getting out of here in actually a few minutes and getting up and getting underway. So yeah, so we're going to be starting our mission with the with distributing blankets and food, and hopefully pocket warmers. One of the things that hand warmers, I should say. I don't know how many of you have been to our broadcast before, if you know about this, but I've mentioned several times that in the first cold season in Salt Lake City, when I was out distributing blankets, the number one thing people asked me for was hand warmers. They were looking for those hot hands, particularly the 18-hour ones. Excuse me. Having lived in, part-time in my car now for the past few weeks, I now see officially why that is the case. Our lovely Nikki Smithson, who has been helping us with all of this, frankly, for several months now, helped me out with a box of hot hands for myself. When I'm sleeping in the van, I'll get into a sleeping bag and I'll grab one of these packets. I had to learn how to do, because they're different. The ones that the smaller ones, they usually have a vial that you break inside, a little capsule that you break inside that releases water into the mixture of the of iron filings, and then as those start to oxidize, it emits thermogenic energy, or in other words, it heats up. And you take one of these larger packets, these 18-hour packets, which is just more of that. Basically, what you have to do is you rip open the plastic packaging, and and the water's already in there. And the idea is supposed to be, apparently, I learned that it's moist already inside the packet. The reason why it doesn't heat up immediately is because, or heat up in the packaging, supposedly, is that all the air has been compressed out of it. And so it's once you open it up and then shake it that the larger ones become, they start the oxidization process. Well, let me tell you, you get into a comfy sleeping bag on a cold night. And there were nights it got cold when I was in Virginia, camping out in Walmart parking lots in Missouri and in Kentucky and in Ohio. No, I'm sorry, Iowa. Yeah, spent one night at a truck stop in Iowa. No, a gas station in Iowa. Spent yeah, and then I on my way out there, I spent the night in one point in Albuquerque. That one was not cold. Not really, not at all. Moab wasn't bad. It was a little. It was pleasant. It was really pleasant on my way out there, out to Virginia back in October. Um, but now it's snowing out there in Virginia, and it's snowing here in Utah, and it is, it's officially winter. And let me tell you, I am worried. I am worried because it's going to be. I'm really worried it's going to be a very cold winter, and a lot of the services that were supposed to be available that should be available for our unsheltered neighbors out there in the current policy climate, shall we say it that way, they're under threat. And while I have some hope, strangely enough, in the unpopularity currently of the current American regime and administration, I am hopeful of that. That may sound weird. I am hopeful that people will see that these policies cost lives. That every year we lose our neighbors, our fellow human beings, to the cold. And some of that can't be avoided, or maybe could be, but we are flawed human beings. There are people who want to make a change, and there are people who want to save our neighbors from the cold and bring them in out of the cold. And there are at the same time people who are working against us. And it's remarkable to think that would be true, that anybody would have to say it. I've often believed that what one human being would never do, a committee will do without hesitation. It's very easy to create a committee that simply says that by simply not saying anything at all, decides that the reaction is to do nothing, that the appropriate thing to do is nothing. And we are living in a day and age where there are people who, in their interest, mainly I'm going to just call it out here, their interest in preserving real estate value, have decided that if people die in the cold, everyone's better off. And that because that's fewer people out on the street, making it unpleasant for them to look at, or making them feel a little less safe, because there are people, who are sleeping out in the cold. Instead of seeing these as human beings who are in a difficult circumstance that could happen to anybody, we tend to see them as people who are, receiving the just punishment of God for their being not thrifty enough, for their being not careful enough, or at least different from us. And it gives us an excuse to excuse ourselves and say, well, that didn't happen to me because I am a responsible person. Well, the truth is, if you stop and talk to these people, not a one of them has a story entirely unlike yours. I talked to a man one time when Elijah and I were off doing our blanket distributions. That's Elijah now, because we have to get going. I have to get back up to Utah County. Elijah and I started talking to this man who we asked him if he would take a blanket, and he, after having accepted one at first, he realized, you have a lot of blankets. He didn't know we had like a car full of blankets. We just had a big garbage bag full of blankets. And he's like, don't give this to me. There's a whole bunch of people down here at the library who are camped out there who could use blankets. So I said, oh, okay. He's like, I'll take you there. So we hopped on the light rail in Salt Lake, and we went out there. And he asked me about who I was and what we were doing. He was really impressed by um, what we were doing, and he told me about how he had a business that rented boats. I'm trying to remember what it was. They were like kayaks or like paddle boats or something. And he had this business in Arizona. This came up because I told him, we're not even really from here originally. We're from Arizona. And he was talking to me about, he had a business in a lake boat business or something. And anyways, he was talking about all of the cars he had, the house he had. And I could tell talking to this guy, he didn't seem to me like he was making any of this up or trying to impress me. He was reminiscing about a life he really lived before he decided to, uh, before he was forced to try and camp out for a while because he didn't have a home to go back to. Everything, lost everything uh, with some circumstances that changed for him. And I was just listening to him and thinking, it really can happen to any of us at any time. Like you can think your whole life it's put together and fine and everything's going well. And you can look at other people and say their life isn't going well because they make nothing but bad decisions, obviously. You obviously don't realize how quickly that could become you. This is what it means to be alive in a modern age in a capitalist system where it's not just that we compete with one another for resources. It's that some people have come to the conclusion that it is the just punishment, usually of God, that some people should be left out in the cold. In any event, this is where it begins. This is how it becomes a solemn act to care that we are suffering, to care that we are not living in a world where, while people claim on one side and on the other that they believe in God, that they believe they are made in the image of God, that we ought to act with compassion and love for our fellow human beings because God wants us to, nonetheless, it would take so little on all our part to decide that nobody should die in the cold in the richest nation in the world. We could do this. We can do better. We have done harder things than that. We have done harder things than this. We just don't want to. And that's the plain reality of it. What one person would never do or claim to do because it'd be too embarrassed, too ashamed. A committee will easily do. And America has become one of the biggest committees that I think there has ever been in the history of the world. And frankly, we can do better. We were founded to be a nation that does better. And even if we weren't, we can choose to now. And I choose to now. So, for those of you who are interested, you can go to Unsheltered of Utah. They have a new app that will allow, if you are in Utah, in the Salt Lake area, that gives you the ability to sign up for a shift. I'm going to go ahead and throw that into comments. Let's see if lately StreamYard and or YouTube has marked something as they have a tendency to mark something as spam if you put it in there with a link. So we'll try it. This is the volunteer form. If you're in the Salt Lake area, it'd be, they always need more people. Oh, it looks like that worked. So last year, I hadn't volunteered before last year, but one of the biggest problems with these volunteering for these events was that the software for volunteering for them is kind of janky. And so, in any event, I haven't signed up for it yet because I just want to make sure it got up there tonight. But the plan currently is that tonight I hope to go do an overnight shift at the usually they're 2 hour shifts, 2 to 4 hours or something like that. Usually you sign up for like 2 hours, and if you can stay longer, they'll ask you to stay longer if you are able to. But they are very understaffed right now. Usually they're pretty easy. It mostly has to do with babysitting something or another, organizing something or another. Like oftentimes they would rotate. You rotate one person, stand at the door, and make sure that nobody comes in who isn't supposed to be coming in, because of course they will check that you're not overcrowding this church, this St. Mark's Episcopal, that you're not overcrowding it with people against the fire code. Believe it or not, they're trying to shut down people trying to take unsheltered people in and out of the cold. There are people who want to keep it from happening. They want to see it get shut down. And so everything has to be done according to the very letter of the law. And so you have a person who's there making sure that nobody can get kicked out, or that nobody has to get kicked out, but making sure that it's not overcrowded. So you usually have one person doing that while you have a couple of people inside managing the signups. And then you have people who will just go through all of the donations that have come in and reorganize them. Usually they're in a bit of a mess, a bit of a state. So in any event, I look forward to doing that. I want to thank you all for coming out to our canonization event today. And we are going to go ahead and close now with another Godless hymn. Let's see here, studio. And that is going to be, I should have loaded it ahead of time. Boom, boom. And that is, of course, going to be one of my favorite ones, like Korihor. Flesh bright friend.
Like Korihor, I was lost and alone. Like Korihor, cast far from home. Like Korihor, they stole my voice. Like Korihor, left without a choice. But unlike Korihor, I can speak again. Unlike Korihor, I have a friend. In my darkest hour, my hope was renewed, because unlike Korihor, I had you. Like Korihor, no guardian angels flew. Like Korihor, shamed by those I never knew. At no God's command, my own footprints remain in this sand. But unlike Korihor, I can speak you